Triple-E EDC back again with another knife video. So this is the Benchmade Weekender. It is a new offering from Benchmade, and I wanted to go ahead and get out a video to you guys. I was going to do a longer video going through the, a bunch of comparison knives and things like that. I'm still going to do some comparisons, but I'm actually going to cut it a little bit shorter. You guys let me know if you want to do some longer form comparisons, but just for size comparison's sake, I'm going to go ahead and yes, these are going to be closed, but I'll go ahead and throw some options on here, and I'll point out what they are. All right, so just so you guys can just see generally the closed size of this. This is the Weekender. This is the Pioneer X A-Locks. This is Cadet A-Locks. Both of these are Swiss Army. This is the Leatherman T4. This is the Benchmade Proper, and that is the ASK Jefferson. So American Service Knife is ASK. So these are the different models here. Now I'm still going to actually go ahead and compare these later on in the video. If you guys want to see some comparisons, and maybe I'll throw in this one as well, but if you want to see some more in-depth comparisons, we'll go ahead and do that later. One other sort of comparison here is GEC as well. All right, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons of this thing open, so you can see the large blade and sort of the length of it on the large blade. So here is the, if I can open it, Leatherman T4, free T4. Here is the GEC, oop, dropping my knives, GEC oilfield jack. Here is the ASK Jefferson. The Swiss Army Cadet. The Swiss Army Pioneer X. And the Benchmade Proper. And then we'll do some size comparisons of some popular folders. Here's the Bugout, the Benchmade Griptilian, and the Mini Grip. So you can see it's similar in size to the Mini Grip. And by the way, the blade length is not so far off on the Bugout, a little bit smaller in blade length than the Bugout. Here is the Para 3 and the Paramilitary 2 from Spyderco. You can see the blade length again on that Para 3 is a little bit closer, but the handle's a little bit smaller on this one. All right, that should do for size comparisons. The one other, sort of thing I want to show real quick is the smaller blade. And a size comparison on that blade with just two knives. The Swiss Army Cadet, here's the blade again on the Cadet, and the Benchmade Proper. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about some first impressions of this thing. So really on first impression, I picked this thing up and it was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I quite heavily, and this is one of my most carried knives for a long time. I don't carry it as much anymore, but I use it all the time still around the house and everything. And it's a really, really good sort of option. It's not really traditional. If you're a slip joint guy, I know a lot of slip joint guys really don't like the Proper. I like the Proper. I'm not necessarily a slip joint guy. I do think the GEC oilfield jack and the GEC build quality in general is better than Benchmade's build quality on slip joints, and generally they cut better as well. However, And the stock is a little thick on some of the Benchmades. However, the Benchmade, and you can see sort of how the micarta is heavily used on this. But you can see the Benchmades are, they make, I guess, more accessible slip joints. You know, the pull on them is not quite as hard, which I know people like, you know, a nice pull and a nice walk and talk. You know, you're not going to get good walk and talk on a Benchmade on a slip joint, but it's you know, it's still a high quality production company in general for modern knives, and these are their takes on slip joints. So I'll pull the Para off for a second, and yes, so a couple of things, you know, right, like I said, struck me right off the bat. One was just how big this is in not only size in general, like the length of the handle and everything, but also in the width here. So you can sort of see the difference in width. Obviously, you have two blades in the Weekender, so it's going to be thicker. That's not really even going to be a question, but it is substantially thick. I mean, you know, you've got two, you know, blades here. I mean, well, at least two blade slots on the Cadet, right? You have one blade, but two blade slots, and then you've got you got four blade slots on this, on the Pioneer X, right? So the Pioneer X is thicker, but this is fairly thick right off the bat. It isn't as thick as the Ask knife or ASK. Ask knife, I think, is redundant. But yeah, so it's pretty thick right off the bat, and it's bigger than you would expect. That being said, the smaller blade here, and I'm not really a two-blade guy, I'll be honest, in these, you know, in these traditional patterns. I do like the two-blade pattern here on this oilfield jack, but in most slip joints, I'm going to prefer like the one blade option most of the time. So just something to know about me preference wise. So when I, you know, review slip joints, you sort of know what you're getting. But one thing that struck me was the size of this blade. It is fairly small. I am used to on a two blade knife. You know, still two substantial blades, I guess. I have used blades before with smaller blades like this, but I just don't generally prefer it as an option. But this blade here is quite nice. You get a clip point here. You get sort of a spear point here on this one. This is build. Well, before I get to how it's build, I will say right off the bat, you sort of notice the orange pivot collars and the black hardware on this versus the original silver hardware on this. I'll also say one other thing that you notice right away on this is you see the differences in the micartas. So that it's a little bit coarser. This micarta on the Weekender is a little bit coarser and a little bit less waxy than the micarta on the Proper. As far as which one I prefer, I think I prefer the micarta on the Proper a little bit, but this is still a really nice micarta, and it could be that Benchmade just sort of changed this micarta over time since I originally bought this. I know micarta production in general changed over COVID as far as what was available due to production shortages. I don't know if Benchmade had that problem, but I know a lot of other knife makers did. In any event, this is, like I said, clip point and spear point. This knife is billed as a, you know, sort of weekend option. It's called the Weekender. You take it with you. You go camping. It's your, you know, sort of weekend camping knife. Now that's, you know, how Benchmade has positioned it in the advertising and the market. I don't necessarily agree with that. I will say. There's a couple of things that sort of leave me wanting on this with respect to, you know, how it's positioned and sort of the design concept of it. But I will say the execution on this is actually pretty good overall. You have S30V blades. Sorry, that's my microphone. You have S30V blades. You have one here and one here. Both of them are S30V, which a lot of times you don't necessarily get a premium steel on knives. Victorinox uses, you know, what they call stainless steel, and it's recycled steel, from what I understand. The, you know, GECs use 1095, right? The But I will say ASK uses S45VN. I know Dirk Warning's channel, which is a great channel. He just hit 5K subscribers. If you haven't seen his channel, go check it out. And he also beat me to the punch, actually, on the comparison between these two. So great job on that, Dirk. But I actually also immediately thought of sort of that comparison. But you beat me to the punch. But the... no, Dirk's great. I like Dirk a lot, actually. So this is... what was I going to say? Oh, S30V on these. So S30V is a great steel. I don't know that it would have been my first choice on the purpose of this knife, right? S30V is one of the best everyday carry steels. And, you know, people are going to turn up their nose and say, no, what about M390? What about S35VN or whatever? You know, S35VN, S45VN are better steels in general for everyday carry. I agree. M390, probably a better steel for everyday carry for most people. There are some exceptions. However, S30V is, you know, fairly easy to machine for companies. It provides a good value for what it is, and is more than good enough for almost everyone's everyday purposes. The problem becomes when you start to say, I'm going to take this in the woods, right? And so that's sort of what they're doing here, is saying, let's take this in the woods. That's a problem for a couple reasons for me. One is I don't like slip joints as a camping option. I know that traditionally, you know, many knives that people took with them, you know, because of how knives started, how folding knives started, were slip joints or backlock knives, essentially. And I do like, actually, you know, locking backlock knives in that scenario. But non-locking slip joints, I do not like in, you know, in wood scenarios for a couple of reasons. One is you don't have, you know, medical care, you know, readily available, so you're going to end up with, you could end up with a scenario where, you know, you cut yourself and, you know, you have less medical supplies around, you risk infection, things like that, right? So that's one concern, and it's more of a concern in a non-locking knife because, you know, well, I'll just go ahead and do it. So on this one, for example, right, there's no awl on this knife. It's two knives and a bottle opener. So there's no awl on this knife, but you have a sort of that center line, you know, knife, and since it's billed as a camp knife, even if it wasn't the design concept, there's sort of going to be this temptation to, you know, take it and drill, right, into wood. And so I was talking about S30V. S30V is a little bit chippy sometimes, right? And so for that purpose, if you're going to use it in sort of the, in a purpose where you're creating torque or something, right, it's not the best steel. And then on top of that, you know, you have the risk of the blade collapsing while you're trying to, you know, exert downward force on it. And I don't love that. It does have a half stop. Both of these blades actually have a half stop. But I don't love that philosophy of a non-locking knife in the woods. It doesn't sit well with me. The other thing, so like I said, there's sort of that, there's no awl, but there's, you know, and there's sort of that temptation to use this knife in that way. This is a clip point, and so, you know, look, the blade choices as far as the blade shapes are pretty good. You know, the clip point and the spear point as far as blade shapes in the woods. So I do think those are decent choices. But, you know, again, this blade's a little bit small for me, and, you know, for woods purposes, like if you're going hunting, you know, as part of your, you know, weekend trip or something like that, like, it just, again, slip joints are not something that I would recommend as a first option. And, you know, S30V is going to stand up to a lot of the repetitive cutting tasks and, you know, tough hides and things like that. But, you know, something like, you know, S90V is going to be a little bit better in that regard. That's why in the Hunt series, Benchmade sort of uses S90V for some of its applications. Anyway, that is some of the concerns on that end. All right. Also, so here's the cap lifter, bottle opener. So this actually is so while these two knives are on half stops, and you get sort of the resistance of a back spring. And by the way, the pull on this is I would say it's about the same as the Benchmade proper. The springs are about the same. So if you're familiar with the proper, and again, I don't really do ratings on the pulls as much. I mean, I have in the past, but I don't do enough slip joints to really give you good ratings on that. But there's decent pull on it. But it's not great, and it doesn't really compare to like a GEC as far as a pull, or JE Made. I've had some really nice crisp pulls on JE Made knives. If you haven't checked out JE Made for slip joints, you are missing out. DLT has them. Obviously, guys, I'm a DLT affiliate. Click the link below if you want to check those out. But those slip joints are awesome. I've reviewed one or two of them on the channel before. I really miss one of those, actually. Anyway, we were talking about the cap lifter. I'm getting sidetracked today. So we were talking about the cap lifter on this one, and the cap lifter is actually pretty good. It stops at an angle here, and it really works fairly well. I will say that it's sort of hinged on this. Again, sort of weird design choice. It's hinged on this screw, it appears. I haven't taken this apart, but it looks like it's hinged on that screw, and then it has sort of a hole cut out inside of here, to clear, and then sort of lock into a detent. So there is a detent here. So it works with a pivot and a detent on that end, and then it comes over here, and there's another detent here. So it's almost like a double detent, or it is a double detent, bottle cap lifter, and it is fairly, because the pull is coming off a spring on the knives. This feels, it's not smooth, but it just feels like a little bit silky compared to the tension you have when you pull the spring. So I thought it was sort of interesting, that contrast. But it is canted, over here. That's full extension on it. It is canted. You're going to get different cap lifters on, let's say, the on the ASK and on the Pioneer X. And so all these actually work very well, the cap lifters. They're excellent. They give good tension on the cap. They pull the cap pretty easily. None of them have any issue hooking. So these are all great options for cap lifters. But I will say that these two are designed much better than this one. So a couple things. This is sort of a basic steel. It's not a nice steel. This actually, so all the implements in the ASK are S45VN, right? So you're getting a knife steel or some other similar knife steel. I know they're doing some, in MagnaCut, and I think some of the original ones were S35. But this is a knife steel, right? Everything's a knife steel in here. I believe this is a regular steel, even though the other two blades are S30V. I believe this is sort of a similar steel to, or a mild steel or whatever on both of these. And again, this is sort of hardened blade steel. So that is that's sort of what you're looking at there. But as far as design, you'll notice what's on the end of here, right? You have a screwdriver on the end of there. On the end of here, screwdriver, right? And it's fatter here, so that means you also have like a little, if you need a pry, you can have that wider tool is going to help with the pry. Now, the ASK doesn't really have a problem with that because there is a nail puller pry / chisel over here, and obviously you don't want to dull a chisel blade if you don't need to, but if you're not using the chisel, which is an unsharpened chisel, it has a bevel, but it's an unsharpened chisel. If you're not using that and you want to use it as a pry, you could. So that is sort of an option that you have on these two. You have things that you can use as pries. You have flathead screwdrivers along with a cap lifter. You don't get that on this, and that's a huge missed opportunity. I mean, I really don't understand. It's so standard on these slip joints to have a screwdriver. Even if you're not going to have this wide enough to be a pry, there's no reason that this shouldn't be squared off so it could at least be used as a screwdriver. Maybe widened a tiny bit. to give it enough breadth to cover a slotted screw, right? So, or flathead slot on a screw. So yeah, I don't understand the design philosophy in several. There's several issues I have with the knife. I planned for this to be a short video, but I got to rambling and it ended up being a long video. So because of that, we're probably going to, I'll go ahead and do some other comparisons along with this so you guys can sort of see what's going on. And again, the links, if you guys want to buy any of these knives, I've got links below, so check them out, and it supports the channel when you do that. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these knives. So this is a sort of mirror, or mostly mirror polish hollow grind. This one is a flat grind, sort of saber, and this one is a full flat grind, more of a mirror polish as well. So, that's just, and by the way, Benchmade does a great job on their stone wash. You can see it's super even, and it just looks great every time I see their stone wash. And another thing just to point out real quick is, as long as we're looking at the blades, are the nail nicks. So the nail nicks on GECs are really, really nice, right? I hate nail nicks. GEC makes great nail nicks. I hate them. I mean, I hate nail nicks in general. GEC makes them good. I like GECs. I don't really like the nail nicks on either one of these two. And this one, I'm not going to use it as a nail nick. I'll use it more as a pull. Now, when this is closed, you can use this as a pull, and that's great, right? And the nail nick on the proper, I never use as a nail nick. I'll just use it as a pull, right? And again, this is not slotted all the way through, and this one is. So again, I'll use this as a pull. I won't use it as a nail nick. But this one I'll use as a nail nick because you can't really get the pull because it's blocked. You'll see how the other side is sort of blocked over there. So you can do it, but it's a little bit uncomfortable, right, to do that, to pull. So just wanted to point that out. Anyway, going back to the blades, kind of all over the place in this review. Oh well, it's the first impressions. So just some options on the blades here. They all cut relatively the same. I will say, despite the fact that the edge feels thinner on this one, and you have the full flat grind on this one, the cutting ability, the ease of getting through material is roughly the same across the board. And so I do have to sort of commend Benchmade on the fact that it cuts that well, considering that out of these options, right? So you can see Benchmade's stock thickness. Actually, let me put this over here. Benchmade stock thickness is pretty similar to the stock thickness of the Swiss Army. Now the ASK is thicker, but it has that hollow grind, right? So you would think that this being, thin stock, both of these being thin stock, the flat grind on this would be the best. But the height on this blade and the height at which it drops allow it to, I think, come to a similar edge. I didn't measure the edge, but it comes to a similar edge. And then the hollow grind on this one, because of the increased stock thickness, makes it also a similar edge. And they all work through material pretty well. All right, I will say out of these, the GEC cuts the best. It's just not even a question. It just gets through material so much easier. It's like I shouldn't say so much. It's a step above. It really is. Fit and finish and everything is a step above. And then the blade design, the fact that it's a full flat grind and it sort of has a lot of area to drop and comes to a nice edge, and it's 1095, which is a good steel for what this is. I think that it just ends up having a better blade than some of these other options, at least for the money that you're spending. Okay. One other thing to note, you're going to get, again, so let's take a look at the tools real quick. So again, 2 blades and a bottle opener. This one has a, like I said, chisel, a wrench, a nail puller, and screwdriver, bottle opener, and your knife, right? This is a modular design, and that means that you can, if you want to make this 3 thick, 4 thick, you want to make it 1 thick, you can do that. You have that option. And it's customizable. You can swap the scales. You can obviously you can open it up if you can do all these things. But that's something that's really cool that ASK does that nobody else does. Now, ASK kind of sucks in one regard, which is these plastic molded scales. I really wish they came out with micarta scales on these. It would be wishful thinking to ask them to do aluminum, but although they do have the tooling. But I would love to. I would have loved to see them do micarta or at least G10. But that's one thing that sucks. Given the fact that it's quote unquote overbuilt, meaning that you have blade steel for basically everything, and you have titanium liners in this. It's very light, and it means that I am not as shocked by the price on this as other people are. This is $240. It's made in America. Like I said, if it wasn't for the injection molded plastic, the injection molded plastic scales, I would be downright happy about the price, because, like I said, American manufacturing, the entirety of it is American manufactured, titanium liners, premium blade steel, more premium than you see on pretty much any other slip joint, because slip joints usually top out around S30V. You'll see M390 on a lot of, I think Lion Steel and everything uses those, but usually you'll see S30V sort of be the top. Now on this, like I said, $240. Okay, and so I don't think it's terrible for the money. Your weekender. All right, let's look at the materials. You have the micarta, that's a plus. S30V, that's a plus. Steel liners, okay, so steel liners are fine, but the pricing is a little bit of an issue, right? You have a little bit more of like a gapping fit and finish issue. I don't think you have too much of that over here. Very slightly, some gapping, but you don't have that, on the GEC, for example, right? So just something to keep in mind on that. The weekender is $225. By the way, it also comes in G10, so it's $225. I don't know about the price on that. And when I say I don't know about it, I don't agree with it. So, there's that. Next up, you got, I believe it's aluminum on here. And you got sort of mostly steel construction on this. It's fairly heavy, but this one has, you can see the tools on this. You've got scissors. You've got an awl, although the awl on this is not nearly as good as the awl on this, right, the Pioneer X. You've got your blade, you've got a file, and a screwdriver here, with a package opener edge right there, like a clamshell package opener. So, and then of course you've got your knife blade. Okay, so that is this one. I think runs about. I think it's about, if I remember correctly, around $80. I can't remember exactly. The Pioneer X is $58. This is probably my favorite out of these for the price. So you get your can opener, you get your screwdriver on the can opener, you get the bottle opener, you get your screwdriver on the bottle opener, right? You get your blade, you get, well, let me pull the blade out. You get your scissors, right? And then is that it? I think that's it. Sorry, with the whole Bell's palsy situation going on, I can't see as well out of my right eye, so that is what it is. But $58, A-locks, just absolutely steal of a deal, I think, on this, you know. So let me move the camera for a second because I've got a low battery notification. All right. So that means I've been talking entirely too long. All right, so that's that. You got the Cadet, that's $48, obviously much lighter, and you have, you know, some basic implements here. Same two implements you have on the Pioneer X, just smaller, and you've got a nail file on here with a, you know, I guess cuticle, you know, cleaner, and then you've got your blade, right? So that, and then you've got, of course, the Benchmade proper. And so here's really the conundrum of this, of the pricing on the Weekender. Okay. This is $144. I love the proper. It is a great knife. You know, slip joint, you know, purists will roll their eyes, but that's a great knife. I love this knife. The Pioneer X, right? A lot of tool for the money. $58, a lot of tool for the money. Really nice quality. The A-Lock series is you know, it's really nice. It feels nice in the hand, and you know, it has a lot of useful tools. That Woodall on here is a really good Woodall, and of course you get Victorinox's scissors and everything else on here. It's just a great option. So $58, $144. That means that you can buy both of these, both of them. Okay, and still be cheaper than that one. Okay, that's my problem with the Weekender. You can buy both the proper and the Pioneer X, not just the regular Pioneer X, but the Pioneer X A-Locks version, and still have money left over rather than buy the Weekender. And considering that this blade is made by Benchmade, you know, as well, it really begs the question, right? It really begs the question whether, you know, I was looking for the, so you have the bottle cap opener here, right? Begs the question, why would you buy the Weekender? Why? So you have the bottle cap opener? Fine, got you covered right here. There's two blades in here. Fine, got you covered. Two blades, right? And frankly, I like the feeling of, you know, the proper better in hand than the Weekender. Although the Weekender is pretty good in hand. I will say the ergonomics are pretty good on it. But that's my main criticism. Again, buy two of these and still have money left over for that one. I'll stop repeating myself. You know, it's a 35-minute video. It was meant to be a short first impressions, but it just boggles my mind where Benchmade was going with this design. I've actually been pretty happy with a lot of Benchmade's designs recently. The mini Adamas, you know, has been excellent. The redesign of the full-size Adamas has been excellent. the aluminum bugout and the contouring on the aluminum bugout scales and the milling and everything, along with the carbon fiber, the contouring on the carbon fiber, scales and the carbon fiber bugout. Those have all been really, really good entries. And I've got a review coming on the Benchmade Shootout. The Shootout is also it's a good knife, but it's not without its issues. So we'll talk about those in another video. But that's where we're at on the Weekender. It's going to be a not recommend for me. But if somebody asked me, look, can I give this as a gift to somebody? Can I, should I, if I really like the design, is it worth buying? I'll still tell you the value isn't there, because these other knives just prove the value isn't there. The value is in these knives, not the Weekender. But if you're saying, hey, I want to spend $225, I really like the way this looks, how's the quality on it? Yeah, the quality's good. The quality is excellent on this. I have no issues with the quality overall. The build is really good. Again, you got, some minor gapping and things. But, overall, it's great. It feels good, by the way. One thing I didn't cover is it has sort of the same handle both ways. So it feels good in hand both ways, this way and this way. So, that's a huge plus as well. And so I would say, hey, you really want it? Yeah, go ahead and buy it. And if you do buy it, use the links below. But I would really recommend these instead, and these are also available at DLT. So grab them below if you want those, or grab them somewhere else. But it definitely helps the channel. Either way, again, these are going to be the recommend from me: the Pioneer X and the Proper. Thank you guys again. Have a great evening, and well, it's actually 2:30 in the morning here, so it is what it is. But have a great evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.